Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. Kicking off the military monkeys, we have the top path sniper, which has the Cripple Moab, the main Moab, and the deadly precision. And these guys are pretty fun and really common, so let's get right into it. So starting off, the deadly precision is the tier 3 sniper that you won't really see used a lot. Sometimes you'll see it in harder maps used for the early game and like ceramic cleanup, but normally you're going to be seeing a lot more main Moab, which is great for Moab stalling and support. And then the Cripple Moab does a whole bunch of things. Like, what in the world does this guy not do? So I'll just mention all of that later as it comes out. Looking at the stats, the deadly precision is very different from the other two snipers. This one kind of does a lot more single target. It has the ability to one-shot ceramics, which is its biggest bonus, and then the main Moab will do that too, but now we're looking at more of support instead of just doing damage. So this guy's going to be stunning the Moabs, which is very good, and you'll see it a lot in Chimps mode. The Cripple Moab does a lot of like damage too. It has a very high amount of damage for its attack, and it does an AoE attack too, which is kind of crazy, along with stalling, along with the damage debuff. So he really does everything, which makes it kind of weird and awkward sometimes to use in Chimps, so we'll take a look at examples of when to use it. Now going on to the cross path for the tier 3, the 302 is just best always, but when you get up to the tier 4, you either have the option of 402 or 420. 402 is better for single target and like stalling one or a few Moabs, so 420 has the pierce and can do a bunch, and Cripple Moab is basically 502 does more damage and 520 does more support. You might be wondering, how does Cripple Moab do damage? And it does a surprisingly large amount of damage. You might not have tried it after it got a bunch of kind of weird and odd buffs, but it actually does a lot of damage. So now let's take a look at the support that you do it for. The tier 3, you wouldn't really support this guy at all, but when you get up to the main Moab, you can Berserker Brew a 420. A 402 does not really get B-Brew, not worth it, but a 420, it definitely is worth it for increasing that pierce, and also the attack speed a bit will consistently stall the Moabs a lot better, and jungle jumps you pretty much always want to have. Now, once we get to a 520, that 520 sniper there, we can keep that B-Brew and add an OC. OC is very big, and additionally, if you have catch, you can turn that B-Brew into a stim to give it more pierce, which is actually pretty useful. Now, when you have a 502 sniper, it didn't have alk buff before, but you have an option of alk buffing it to increase its attack speed a little bit, which does a good amount of damage, and of course overclock too. Getting stim for this guy is not worth it though. And on maps that it's good on, snipers are pretty much like good on nearly all maps. Even if it looks like it doesn't, you can kind of find a way to get snipers in to do a lot of work, even if there's like a lot of obstacles and stuff. There's only a few maps that snipers wouldn't really work well on. So let's get on to the objectives. So our objectives here is looking at the main stall, the main support, and both cross paths for the cripple. So for both of these example runs, I'm going to do one of each cross path. I'm going to be doing the 520 cross path here, I think. Yep, so the 520, and I'm just going to be pairing this up with a bunch of cleanup and kind of irregular damage. So basically, when we have this 520, it will be able to stun a large clump of balloons and kind of more like slowly do damage. So it would kind of lock a lot of stuff in its place and then just like let a whole bunch of stuff leak. So you're going to get like a pretty consistent wave of like a lot of Moabs and maybe some BFBs, a whole bunch of ceramics too. So having a pretty steady cleanup would actually make a very good synergy with this. So here I'm just going to get Etienne. We'll have Etienne working later on and also give us camo. I'm going to start with some of those snipers just to take care of our early game weaknesses with lead and all, and I'm going to be going for a Comanche Commander, which will do a pretty good job. It has decent damage, decent pierce. Etienne will help clean up for the mid game in order to help save up for that. I'm just going to grab a bouncing bullets, and then we'll also have that main Moab, so we can use that main Moab for the save up too. I'm going to grab Comanche Commander first, and then Cripple Moab. That's generally a better idea to to grab your like regular damage tower, because Cripple Moab will, if you only have that as your real damage, it's going to leak a whole bunch of stuff. Probably not the most useful for a black border to have like a bunch of random stuff leaking around. So we're going to get that. Got the maim. This will save up into the Comanche just fine, as we're doing now. And then it doesn't really matter, like as long as you get the cripple before 80, we should be fine. So the last thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to get a glue storm. Not really so much for the debuff per se, but really to make sure that we can get this Comanche to hit the DDTs. The debuff's also really good with Comanche, so I mean that is doing a lot, and it can also do cleanup. The cripple does do a debuff too, but it's only to the Bloons that it affects, so most of the time, although still a lot of the time, the Comanche will be getting the benefits from, actually won't be getting the benefits from the cripple debuff. So you just got to keep that in mind. It's only going to be the stuff that it's targeting, which is usually like the stalled ZOMGs at the end if you're keeping it on strong. But we get our stim buff, so we got that. I'm going to get the glue storm, and then we're going to get the overclock, and we're just going to be doing a lot of damage. You can move it over from strong to first if there is like a ton of stuff going by, which is a good idea. So if you just see like a bunch of stuff just leaving, setting the cripple over to first will help kind of clean it up. As I said, it does have a lot of damage. Even with the 5-2-0 cross path, it can still do quite a bit of damage and kind of make sure stuff doesn't get through, so that's pretty good. Anyways, for this run, everything's super chill. Get Etienne up. That Cripple Moab's just making those ZMGs go nowhere. As you can see, it leaks just like a ton of stuff, so some stuff's getting a little overwhelmed. I switched over to first, put it back on strong, and you're just going to deal with the DDTs. And the cool thing about Cripple, round 100 is absolutely free. Very nice, so we don't have to worry about that. Alright, moving on to these next two examples. This is just pretty simple examples of a 4-2-0 maim in the mid-game stalling. The 4-2-0 is generally a lot better once you get past round 60 compared to the 4-0-2, so you probably see 4-2-0 being used. It will help stall like ZOMGs, BFBs, some Moabs, all that stuff. Pretty much like any Moab, in a way it will help stall. But 4-0-2, you can do something pretty interesting. This will perma-lock a ZOMG, which is something that the 4-2-0 can't do. And you can use this as stalling in many ways. This really isn't the best example because I am not really stalling for anything special, but there's lots of setups where you need to stall for something like brick mine abilities or a crucial ability that you need to use on both rounds. And having this guy on last will be able to just take out that ZOMG, but this time it's going to be stalled at the very back of the track, so I can refresh all of the abilities up. And when you're not using it to stall on like those ZOMG rounds, you can actually set it to strong and it will take out DDTs very well too. So that's pretty nice. Now let's go on to the second example, which is going to be the 5-0-2 Cripple Moab. This one you'll probably see a bit less. It does do more damage, but it does do a bit less with support. It's kind of interesting. It's a very random mix of like just random, I don't really even know how to describe it, like random traits for a tower that you wouldn't really expect. So we're gonna check it out at least. This time I'm gonna bring Churchill. Again, just more cleanup. It's still going to be dependent on a lot of cleanup because the damage is typically going to be done to like stronger types of Bloons. It's a lot of constant like single target damage and a bit of AoE around it, but that AoE, because it's going to probably mostly be going to the strongest Bloon, is going to be just like around the other strongest Bloons. It isn't as good set on first. You definitely can set it over to first if stuff is leaking, but it's not like the greatest cleanup tower ever if you're using it like that. So typically you'd have like it on strong a bit, then on first, and then like strong first. You might want to micro it around. Again, it's just a very odd tower, and I'm not really expecting a lot of people to be using this cross path, just because it's kind of just like very odd and random, but it is an option that if you want to try something kind of strange, it does work pretty well when used correctly, as we will see here on High Finance. So I'm just going to get Churchill down. We're going to get this sniper that's going to go up to the Cripple Moab. What am I talking about? Well, it's a main Moab now, but it will be Cripple Moab. So this sniper is going to be able to just deal with these Moabs in the early rounds just fine. I'm going to go for a Bloon Solver, so we'll get a village up, we'll get that glue gunner. We are going to Bloons Solver. Churchill will be doing some work in the meantime, and we got that reactor to decamo. If you were from the stream, you might remember me accidentally putting that other 100 sniper there, thinking, oh yeah, that's going to be the Cripple Moab, and then I realized I can't see anything on this map. So that was kind of funny, but other than that, it was all pretty chill. So we're just going to get Solver and then move straight to Cripple. Again, like last time, we don't want to get Cripple first because then we're just going to have very inconsistent damage. We're going to need that cleanup and then the damage will be very consistent. So we'll grab that and pretty chill. And then also Churchill got like a bunch of buffs recently, and you can see me changing the aspect ratio. I'll talk about the Churchill first though. So Churchill got a bunch of buffs. I actually really like it. I think Churchill, from the few runs that I did, he was quite strong and really nice. And also another thing is that recently, like as of the change, the aspect ratios for me on Steam have just been like all wonky. It doesn't allow me to like minimize, or well, not minimize, like change the size of the screen, but just like to certain aspect ratios. And when I go on to like the correct aspect ratio for YouTube, which is 1920 by 720, I think. I'm not sure exactly, but the correct one for YouTube, it just comes up on my screen as like a super tiny window, taking up maybe like an eighth of the screen. And I'm like, I'm not playing on something that small, so I don't know if there's like a fix for that, but the best one I found that like takes up a good amount of space so I can like actually play the game, cuts like a little bit off on the top. If I go into the main menu, it just looks weird when I play it like normally. Like here, I'd have to like kind of adjust it every now and then, and it's like only taking a bit off the top. I don't know if you can fix this, but yeah, that's kind of just a weird issue that you might have been seeing lately. Anyways, we got the Solver, we got the Cripple, we're gonna OC. I'm gonna get an OC for Churchill and the Cripple Moab, so they're both going to have an overclock, and then they're just going to destroy it. And as you can see, Cripple Moab is like doing actually a lot of damage. It's kind of weird, kind of odd, crazy. Like all those like fortified Moabs, they're just disappearing, and then the DDTs kind of disappear too. It's kind of just like dealing damage to all of them. Definitely a bit of a strange tower. So anyways, we're carrying into the 90s here. Now we have all of the OC Cripple kind of that stuff. We got the Solver cleaning up, and from here you can just add like other towers just kind of to support whatever you may need. Round 100, as I said, is totally fine. Normally it's fine for the 520 because it does a good amount of round 100 damage, but the debuff will allow presumably your other towers that you have at least enough. It has a +5 damage debuff, so that should be able to cover it. But when it comes to 520, this thing's just going to shred open the bad by itself with its own damage. Like, the thing's going to be gone, so there's really no worries at all about that. And as you can see, round 98 like actually had a really satisfying end. Like, it just all went down kind of crazy. Round 100's gone too, and that was actually a really cool late game. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!